Today I wanted to do this a little differently, a little more raw. This day was pretty intense and long and tiresome. I had a pretty bad night yesterday when I finished uploading that video. I packed all my stuff. I had to go to the university Wi-Fi to upload that video because I don't have Wi-Fi at home at the moment. And after I finished that, I wanted to treat myself with renting one or two movies and have a movie night with myself yesterday. That's a good thing about the university there. They have a big collection of DVDs and Blu-rays, mostly old stuff, but they have a lot of new stuff too. And in the past couple of months, I only watched old classics and whole catalogs of some of the directors that I like. And yesterday I wanted to get Iron Claw, and that's the Sean Durkin. I never saw anything by that director before, but I heard good stuff about it. And I also got Greta Gerwig's Lady Bird, which I have seen a few years ago, but which I wanted to rewatch. Yesterday I wanted to watch Iron Claw, and I started the movie at 11 or 12 at night, and I watched the whole movie. It's about four brothers who are in a family of wrestlers, and the four brothers are played, I don't know the youngest brother, but the other three brothers are Zac Efron, Jeremy Allen White from The Bear, and Harris Dickinson, I think his name is. And I saw that guy before in Triangle of Sadness. I really dig Zac Efron too. I like that guy, and especially like the movies he chose in the past couple of years. So I was excited to see this movie because I heard that it got snubbed when the award season was in America and all over the world, and this movie didn't get a lot of attention then. But I know that a lot of people like that movie a lot, and that's why I wanted to see it, and I was really looking forward to seeing it yesterday night. And that was a mistake maybe, because it ruined my whole night for me. That movie was so intense. It's about four wrestlers, like I said, wrestling, a sport that it's kind of weird and funny and disgusting. Grown men and women in weird spandex dresses fighting with each other without having a real fight because everything is scripted. But it's still a very intense sport because of everything that surrounds it. And the publicity, the way they have to go over their body routines and stuff. And I saw another movie a couple of years ago by Darren Aronofsky, The Wrestler, with Mickey Rourke. And I really loved that movie too. So these two movies paint a very different image of the wrestling sport. And I have to be honest, when I was a child, when I was, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 years old, I watched WWF wrestling a lot. And I even went to the arenas in Germany to watch wrestlers like The Undertaker, Brad Hitman Hart. That was my favorite. I think I even saw Ric Flair, a very old Ric Flair, at the beginning of the 90s. And I was a fan. I watched that and I thought it was real back then. This movie is about a family I haven't heard before. I didn't know much about wrestling history, and it's a real story from the 80s. Family of four brothers. I think there was a fifth brother who died early, and a family curse, kind of. This whole family is has a looming doom around them, and that's mainly also caused by a very manipulative father. And the father figure in this movie is also very, very intensely played. What made this movie that stressful for me and depressing was, of course, the story itself, but it was also very, very darkly scored. I love the score, and I love people who do dark scores. The guy who did this score is called Richard Reed Perry, if I remember correctly. Never heard of him before, but I will look in his catalog definitely after this movie. We watch these four brothers, and one kind of knows what happens, but we see it through the eyes of the character of Zac Efron, and he plays this very, very well. And I was in love with the acting by all of the actors in this movie, but especially the Zac Efron. I think he nailed that character, and the body transformation he went through must have been crazy. This guy has like zero body fat in this movie. I know that people were making fun of him the way he looks right now, but I think that also has to do with some surgery he had to undergo. I think to his cheekbones or something. He looks really like a square almost. It's very different from the movies before. But I really liked his performance and how he embodied this character that is not the most intelligent man. He's a little superstitious, and he goes through life and has to overcome this love for his father, like all the brothers do, and see through the manipulative ways of this man. And it gets darker and darker and darker, this movie. And when it ended, I was just sitting here finishing my beer, and I couldn't sleep for 2 more hours because I was so deeply, I wasn't moved. I was a little scared. I felt that pain in that movie so intensely that I took it with me to sleep. That's why I had a really bad night. And I woke up early this morning at, 7 o'clock too. I couldn't really sleep that long. And the morning I spent in bed afterwards, I just got up to get another cup of coffee. I have to start this one again now. I'm really, really tired right now. To be honest, I'm a little drunk too. I hope it doesn't show. And I need to go to bed soon. But I want this channel also to be practical for me. And I want to talk to you guys and talk into this microphone at moments that are not scripted as much as the one in the first video that I posted. I want this to be this kind of raw at sometimes. I shot all of this stuff that I posted in this video today on an iPhone app, and I want to do that too sometimes. Just vlogging and vlogging with everything that comes in handy, and sometimes that's just my phone. The morning was really intense too, to be honest. I was still very tired and fucked up, and I had the book with me in bed that I was reading the past couple of days, which is Ada Calhoun's, also a poet. And this book is a book about, it's a memoir, and it's a memoir about her finding boxes of material of her own father. Her father was a writer too in the 70s. He was a renowned art critic, and she found boxes of material on the writer Frank O'Hara, and her father was a big fan of that poet, and me too. Frank O'Hara is one of my favorite poets ever. He was a part of the New York School of Poets, which also had John Ashbery, Kenneth Koch. Who else was in there? There's more. Ron Padgett later. Different poets who were inspired by the French Parisian school, and they were at the university. It was a university background, and they had to do with painting, with museums. Frank O'Hara himself was curating for a museum, and that was his main job. I will show you a poem at the end of this video by Frank O'Hara, one of my favorite poems by him. And it was some new voice that these guys had, which was completely different to guys like Allen Ginsberg or Jack Kerouac. It was a little more artsy, and it was, and that's why I was reading this again, thinking about my own work. Frank O'Hara published his first book of poetry under the name Lunch Poems, and he wrote those poems when he worked, and at lunch hour he wrote poetry, and this collected poetry from his lunch hours was published. And a lot of the guys had regular jobs and were writing just on the side of that. A few years ago, Jim Jarmusch, who also had connections to the New York School of Poets, made an homage to them with the movie Patterson, which starred Adam Driver as a bus driver in Patterson, New Jersey, and he was writing poetries in his little notebook that he had while driving the bus in every lunch break that he had.
Morning, Donnie. Everything okay?
No, not really. My kid needs braces on her teeth. My car needs a transmission job. My wife wants me to take her to Florida, but I'm behind on the mortgage payments. My uncle called from India and he needs money for my niece's wedding, and I got this strange rash on my back. How about you?
I'm okay.
This whole movie was an homage to this group of people. There's also poetry in this movie. You can see him write, and you hear the voiceover of him reading the poetry he writes, and that poetry was written by Ron Padgett. And what I was thinking, and what made me connect everything I read this morning, I'm like, only 80 pages in or something, but I had to think about my own work for a lot of reasons, for two main reasons, to be honest. The first was that, of course, she has a very complicated relationship to her father, because her father was this kind of sleazy, let's collect all the stuff and never publish a book and be not serious about anything. She has this example of him being sent out by his newspaper to watch the 1963 March of Martin Luther King, and he just didn't go because he overslept. And this way of her father led to her becoming very meticulous in her own work. She is very, very serious and prolific in the stuff. And doing this book and also being a fan herself of Frank O'Hara makes it like a ride for her, going into this disability of her father to be concentrated on a project and finishing it, and she's finishing it for him, kind of. That resonates with me, obviously, because I think that could be something that my children might have to do with my stuff that they might find in my attic when I'm dead or when I'm old. Hey, why didn't you do something with this and this and this? Why did you do this for 2 years and never finish it? And yeah, all these parts of the book deeply resonate with me. But also, of course, the story of Frank O'Hara himself, which is this superficial story about writing at lunch break and being a part-time artist. And that is something that I did in the past couple of years, in the last 10 years, before I turned full-time freelance in 2020. I always had a job. I always had I wouldn't call it a day job because it would be unfair. I just had a job and did all of my art stuff on the side. And this had pros and cons. At the moment, 3 or 4 years into my full freelance career, I am deeply thinking about getting back into a job again too. Because, to be honest, maybe, I don't know, I am not carved out to be a full-time artist. Because it's just not in me doing shit, crossing it off my to-do list and finishing stuff and going on to the next one and being as productive as I can be. That had to do with me being depressed for a long time, of course, but still, I know that when I was still working, I always had this feeling that, oh damn, one day I will blow up with my art and I can do all the stuff that I like and I will be paid just for doing the stuff that I love. Every artist's dream, cliche dream that I had. But it also fueled me. And it was especially after very, very hard and unnerving days at the office that I sat down and recorded that podcast. Or I finished editing that video, or finished editing those photos, or spontaneously arranged a shoot for the evening just because of sheer anger towards my daily life back then. It always started during that time when I was working 40 to 50 hours in an office. I started my days early and I was sitting in bed with my coffee and I was watching videos on YouTube by men and women who posted videos about their life as outcasts somewhere on a boat or living off their camera as tour photographers, minimizing the stuff they own to 2 bags and then traveling the world. All this stuff was 1 hour of my daily life during that time in the morning. And then I went to the office, had my regular job, went there for 7, 8 or 9 hours. And when I came back exhausted, I was still motivated to do my own shit. And I was appreciating my own stuff a lot more than I am right now sometimes, to be honest. Looking at a day like today, and this is something that makes this YouTube channel interesting for me too, because right now this recording of this video doesn't really do anything for me, but it feels like a little more productive day than if I did not. If I cut this video tomorrow and publish it, it will be something that stands there somewhere. And this day won't be a forgotten day that I spent reading about Frank O'Hara and Ada Calhoun and her father and having a hangover of a wrestling movie with 4 depressive brothers. So maybe this is one of the things that will be most interesting to me, doing this stuff and vlogging like this, having an account of these days and having some kind of productive outcome for 4 days like this. I'm kind of out of breath all the time at the moment. I don't know. I'm really, really tired right now. It's, I don't know, 11 or 12 at night. And this week I'm going to Berlin. And I'm planning on taking you guys to Berlin with me, because I want to do some street photography there. And I'm going to meet a lot of people. So maybe this will be a nice video coming at the end of next week. In my last video, I told you that I have to get better at talking into the camera. And I think I was way worse today. And I was just looking around here. This is all unscripted that I'm doing. I'm not planning this at all. I have just some basic structure in my head. And otherwise, I'm just talking from the top of my head. And I was tired. And I was a little drunk. And I hope my English wasn't too see. So nothing left for me to do than say goodbye. See you soon, hopefully. And please leave a like and follow me. And thank you for all the comments at the last video. I really, really liked those and enjoyed those. And they were part of the reason I started recording directly again today. And I will finish this video now with a little montage of something that I haven't decided on yet. And Frank O'Hara reading you one of my favorite poets of him, which is Having a Coke with You. So have fun with that.
The poem's called Having a Coke with You. It's even more fun than going to Saint Sebastian, Irun, Onday, Biarritz, Bayonne, or being sick to my stomach on the Travesera de Gracia in Barcelona. Partly because in your orange shirt you look like a better, happier Saint Sebastian. Partly because of my love for you. Partly because of your love for yogurt. Partly because of the fluorescent orange tulips around the birches. Partly because of the secrecy our smiles take on before people and statuary. It is hard to believe when I'm with you that there can be anything as still, as solemn, as unpleasantly definitive as statuary, when right in front of it, in the warm New York 4 o'clock light. We are drifting back and forth between each other like a tree breathing through its spectacles. And the portrait show seems to have no faces in it at all, just paint. You suddenly wonder why in the world anyone ever did them. I look at you, and I would rather look at you than all the portraits in the world, except possibly for the Polish rider occasionally, and anyway it's in the Frick, which thank heavens you haven't gone to yet so we can go together the first time. And the fact that you move so beautifully more or less takes care of futurism, just as at home I never think of the nude descending a staircase, or at a rehearsal a single drawing of Leonardo or Michelangelo that used to wow me. And what good does all the research of the Impressionists do them when they never got the right person to stand near the tree when the sun sank? Or for that matter, Marino Marini when he didn't pick the rider as carefully as the horse. It seems they were all cheated of some marvelous experience, which is not going to go wasted on me, which is why I'm telling you about it.